Hello and welcome to a Knitting in the Round Basics class on Magic Loop from Sarah Shearer. We're going to be talking about the very basics of Magic Loop here just to give you a sense of how this works. I've cast on 24 stitches. I like to use long tail cast on because it has a nice thick bottom row here and I can see really clearly if my stitches are twisted, which as you can see here, it's pretty easy to tell. If I were to use something like the backwards E cast on, that becomes harder to see. So just if you're struggling sometimes with telling if things are knit or twisted, ask yourself if you changed your cast on, if that would help you. All right, so I've got all my stitches here, cast on, 24, and I need to knit them in the round. So Magic Loop involves splitting the stitches, and you should, most people find that having a cord of at least 32 inches or so works well. I'm blanking on the metric equivalent because most people who ask me in inches. I will put it on the screen. All right, so what we're going to do with all this cord, we're going to slide the stitches onto the cord. And I'm going to do my best not to make too much noise with them hitting that for you. So on the cord, we're going to split them in half. So that would be 12 stitches. 9, 12. So I'm going to count to that point. I'm going to pull this apart a little bit and I'm going to bend the stitches on either side. There's my gap that I want. And now I'm going to pinch that and I'm going to pull the cord through. And once I've done that, I can breathe a little bit because I don't need, if things go astray, I know I've got 12 on each side. And if I was worried, I'd count again. All right. So now I'm going to arrange this so that these are both on the needles, the tips of this. All right, so I have half and half. I have the cord coming off the left and I have the working yarn coming off the back of these two tips. I'm going to take a moment to double check that nothing is twisted. If it was twisted, it would look something like this. So what I am looking for is if I were to nudge this or even put it on the ground, on the table in front of me to see how I was working, I would be looking so that I could trace between the two needles a straight line without having to travel over the needle. So if that had twisted again, what might happen is I would be traveling. Oh wait, I go around the needle. So we're just going to take a moment. We will rest that so that we've got everything inside is the same. The working yarn, as I said, is coming off the back. I'm going to pick these up and hold them in my left hand. And now I'm going to take the back needle and I'm going to, or the back tip, and I'm going to pull it all the way out quite far. And so I've got part of the loop of the cable there between these two stitches. And then I've got my tip over here and I'm going to bring it around and I'm going to twist it and bring it back here. To work these stitches, I need to get these closer to the tip, so I'm going to push these down the tip. So I'm going to be holding the stitches always sort of between my fingers of my left hand, holding them here and keeping them sort of the same and so that they don't twist, especially in this first maneuver. All right, so I need to get the working yarn around my hand. I will knit continental, so it will come off over here. So we always know which stitch we don't knit because if the yarn is coming from that stitch, that's not the one we work. So I'm going to put my tip in over here. I'm going to push this forward so that I'm pinching. That's how I do it. You'll find methods that work for you. I'm going to knit this first one, and once this first one is knit, we can breathe a bit of a sigh because now we're sort of, we're locked in and we're good. So now I will continue to knit all the way across this needle. And as you can see, the magic of the loop is how we've got a sort of it's not quite a figure eight because we're not crossing here, but we've got this loop coming off of either side. And that is allowing us the flexibility to have two tips working against each other. While the stitches that were of the half we're not knitting, you can see they're just hanging out here on the cord. They're just chilling. All methods of knitting in the round involve sort of ignoring some of the stitches as you are not working them. All right, so I've knit all of them onto this needle tip. So this one is free. I'm just going to drop it for the moment. Now we want to get these away from here so that we don't worry about them. So I'm just going to push them up and onto the cord. So now again, we've got all of the stitches are on the cord. And now I want to flip it so that the just worked stitches are at the back and the stitches to work are in front. Again, I'm trying not to make too much noise with these scraping along the surface there. So I'm going to push the cord in and push the stitches up and onto the tip. So the stitches we just worked are here. We can tell that because the yarn is coming off that stitch. That's the last one we worked. All of the loop is on the left, so we need to redistribute that. So we've pulled it out of this tip out, and we're going to keep pulling, pulling, pulling till we're about 50-50 either side. And then we can grab the yarn however we like to hold it when we work, and we just, with these two tips, these are the only stitches we're going to pay attention to, one at a time here, and we're going to work across. All right, so we've worked these across. We can kind of get rid of this tip. We can pinch these two and get all of the stitches onto cord. And we can flip them around again. And it can get a little like flippy and trippy, so I'm just going to remind you, let's say you walk away or you need to put the project away. If you are putting the project away, always slide it onto the cord. Never leave it on your tips because it can come off that way. This way it's much safer. If we just put it like this somewhere, it's going to stick around. So how do we know what we're doing here? Well, remember, the working yarn, the yarn connected to the ball of yarn, will always come off the stitch we just worked. And we never work a stitch twice in a row unless we're doing something special, and then the pattern would tell you to. So this has to be coming from the back for magic loop, and we want to be working on this one. So that means that we put these stitches to the back half, and then we place these ones onto the tip. We scooch, scooch, scooch them up onto the tip. Then we move this so that we get that magic loop happening, that nice big circuit. Pick up the working yarn however you like to hold it, and then simply work across. If you are wondering, hey, how do I know if I've knit a round? Because I'm only knitting half and half at a time. I often like to use the cast on end wherever this this dangles. That is when I get around to here again, then I will be done half. So the fact that it's over here means or a whole round. So the fact that it's over here means that I'm not. But when it's dangling here, then I am done the whole round. Or if you want, you can use a removable stitch marker and just clip it onto the part of the circle. It will feel awkward at first. You'll find the way you like to hold, the way you like to move the cord as you do this a few times. Cast on 20, 30 stitches. Get that first round working that's not twisted, and then just knit for a few inches, and you'll be amazed how much faster and or how quickly you become comfortable with this. You're already good at knitting. You'll be good at knitting in the round.